All right, today I'm going to go through what I would do for a felt hat tune-up. This is something that, this time of year we're switching over to felts and maybe you either stored it wrong or the shape you had last year didn't like. This is kind of what I would do to start your felt season off properly. So the first thing you should do whenever you're going to shape a felt for sure is clean it. Even though you probably cleaned it before you put it down, it needs to be cleaned again. If you get in here close, I'll just show you this. There's a little bit of dirt right there. I don't know if the light's very good. You can see that. That would be something that you would take off. That brings me to my second point, which would be if you are going to clean one, make sure you have a good brush. Have a brush for lighter hats and a brush for darker hats. Don't change those over. Sometimes you get microfibers from the dark hats that will then ruin one of these lighter hats. So I'm going to go ahead and clean this real fast. If you want to see a detailed video of how we clean hats, you can click this link right here. So I'm just going to go through this real quick, tidy it up. All right, so now that you have brushed it off really good, you're gonna assess kind of what your plan is before you just start going to the heat with it. So what I see on this hat is some symmetrical issues left and right. This back is the real issue. You can see it tipping up more on one side or the other. The customer wanted this hat just kind of leveled off nice and easy, and then we're gonna put a little bit of a dip in there. So this would not be a candidate for ironing. If it was really bad, that would be where we would iron. If you want to see how we iron the hat, you can click this link right here for that. But we're just gonna go ahead and get some heat on it, try to get it sitting back to normal. So because this is where it's really wrong first, I'm going to apply the heat right there. Typically on hats, I try to keep the heat on just one side, which is the top side, because in theory, if it's going to warp over time, I would rather it warp up than warp down. A floppy hat versus, kind of a more upright hat. Gravity is always going to work against you, so just keep that in mind. So a lot of the shaping that I do, I keep the heat on the top side of the hat. That's a little tip that not everyone will tell you, but we'll tell you here. So I'm going to get a decent amount of heat on this just so when I do move it, the whole hat moves together nice and easy. So I'm going to put some heat in the front, some heat on the sides, but the most heat I'm going to put right where it was wrong. I'm usually not going to leave my pot until this hat is pretty warm. You might take that over to your table and go to work it before it's warm enough. And it's not going to ruin your hat. It's just going to take you a lot longer to get the same result. Quick little heat. Then I'm going to go here. I'm going to set it down, and I'm just going to go from the crown out and push straight out. Now I can hold my hands, or I can continue to work that same pattern. I just want to be nice and consistent here. Try not to get into these sides because I just don't want to pull one of those sides down on accident. So wait till it feels kind of cool to you, and then you can assess what that did or did not do. Okay, you can see there. To me, I think it needs a little bit more, so we're going to go ahead and do it again. I'm going to use quite a bit more heat this time because I realized that obviously I didn't use enough if it didn't change it that much. This hat seems to be pretty new, so it's going to spring back to wherever it was. It doesn't have really any memory that's making things go crazy, but it's certainly going to go back to the way it's been sitting for the longest amount of time. Okay, heat those other areas so the whole hat moves together. One of the biggest mistakes I made when I first started shaping hats was getting too localized with what I was doing. The whole hat moves together, so keep that in mind if you're shaping at home. Whatever you do to one side, it actually affects the other side. So once again, just try to keep this nice and easy. You can see me now coming into these sides just a little bit. That's me making the assumption that maybe the sides are making that tip up too much, which we can put some of those sides back in there. You don't see me go all the way around, just like this. Okay, when it starts to feel cool, I can pick it up and assess it again. Okay, so it's still got that tip up pretty good. I'm going to try to work on the front and come back and let that cool and see if it really springs up. If I have to, I might have to really go to cranking on it. Typically when it's doing this, it's because something else is driving it up. And so I might, loosen these sides and try that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Just loosen each side. See if I can get this hat to relax and not tip up so much. Still thinking about where it's wrong. It's more wrong back here than it is up here. So more of my heat is going to be back here. Once I feel like I have sufficient heat, I'm going to put this on my chest and just try to hold my hand here and use that as an anchor. Having a good stomach helps with this quite a bit. Okay, so 2 hands together, keeping the same size brim tip that she already has. Just trying to anchor it with this hand and pull it around. That looks great. Do that to the other side. Even though I was working this one side, it is affecting the other side. So I'm going to come over here, try to treat it the same. This is definitely a left hand, right hand. Going to have to get really good over time. Shaping a lot of hats helps you. Okay, same thing. Stick it on my chest, anchor with this hand, and pull this side around. Trying to get these sides to not terminate in a corner in the back, which is making it tip up. So keeping the same size. Okay, now that is a magic trick if I've ever seen one. That almost fixed that. So we're going to go back to pushing this back down, and then we'll assess its symmetrical nature, both front and back. And then we'll start to put a dip in it, and we'll be dang near close to done. So I put a good bit of heat like I did at the beginning. Just easing those sides in the back seemed to help immediately. So same thing that I did before. Just going to push that out. I can always bring those sides back up. This kind of tip up can happen whether the hat is stored incorrectly or the sides are too aggressively put in there. They'll just basically pull the hat back up. Let's see here. All right, you can see that it's really flat across the back. So I'm going to go ahead and make it not so much, but it's helped that tip up quite a bit. Tip's still there a little bit. We'll address that front and back. So I'm going to go ahead and make this kind of terminate in the middle instead of the side. This will help it. So my anchor point's going to be in the back instead of on the corner. Quickly get to that. So I'm going to put my anchor point here and try to make this hat come to that point instead of this point, which is driving the back of that hat up. Okay, hold my hand if that helps you. Once you feel like you've got that, you can take the whole thing. When it starts to feel cool, either add more heat or be done on that side. Usually I just kind of work one side, work the other, and then assess it. Notice my heat's going all over this side, but mostly where I need it to move. I want everybody to move together. Anchor points more towards the center. Bring it around. So I feel like it's staying there. These minor adjustments are going to help this hat not want to spring up like it was in that localized spot. Okay. So I can see it still trying to do it. You can see there's some symmetrical stuff that we'll just kind of press one more time. We'll do the dip in the front, and then I kind of like to leave these a little bit blank before the person comes back. I don't want to get too crazy with anything and make it harder on myself when they come. So I'm not going to pick too many more fights with this back. Just try to get it nice and symmetrical. And where I'm pressing it really square, I'll also take it like this, both hands on the outside, just so everybody flows together. These really upright sides can cause some issues. You can see there. If they're either not put in correctly or if you don't store the hat correctly, they'll basically just fold the hat in half. So you can see this little bump coming up. We'll come back to that. We're going to go ahead and put a dip. And the dip is right here. Basically lets this hat flow naturally down. If it doesn't, it just kind of has an upright appeal, which in theory over time will just continue to lift. And that's just mostly a style thing. I think personally it helps the whole hat flow together. Just like a fedora tips down in the front. It looks really good, but it also helps the hat stay consistently that shape. So I'm going to heat both sides here because I'm going to do something pretty drastic. If I only heated one, it might not move as freely as I need it to. Once again, the heat is localized, but still moving kind of everywhere. Leave it on this heat. Okay, there's lots of ways to do this dip. I've done it one way for the longest time, learned another way. Both of them work really great. The one that I like to start with, just because I feel like it can be pretty symmetrical, is to set the hat down, decide where I'm going to do the dip, both back this way, and then set my hand there, put my fingers in the corner, and just lightly push my thumbs down. Okay. Now, if I wanted this dip to be further out this way, I could have put my hands here, done the same thing if I needed it in here. Basically, I'm trying to stay consistent with this. If I would have gone further out, it would have made this shorter, and that's not what the customer wanted. So I'm just going to push that. Once I feel like I have it started, you can see from the side, it's not a breakover, it's nothing, dramatic, but it helps this hat flow. So then I'm going to look at it, see kind of what that did to the sides, because it might take some of this out of symmetry. You can see that side tipping that way and this side tipping this way. So I'm going to do this just to help it along on the top side. So this is the other way. That's the way I really, really, really like. But this way also helps me depending on the hat. So I'm going to get pretty localized heat right here on this side, especially because I know I'm taking the hat down. This is kind of the only thing you take down on a hat. You'll need to put some heat on the bottom. Okay, so here's the other one. You're going to hold it with your fist in the back and with the brim or the side of the brim right there. And so then you're going to take your hand as flat as you can and push it towards your elbow. Okay, you can see that there. This helps bend it right here in this region. The thing I find that gets dangerous with that is sometimes you have some symmetry issues. So I kind of do a little bit of both. Maybe I crank it there a little bit, bring it here a little bit, and then I hold it back and look at it. The one thing you'll need to know, when you add dip to a hat, it will make your sides look dramatically higher or dramatically lower, depending on what style you have in there. So if it seems like it tacoed your hat and you didn't want that, or it seems like it made your hat a flat hat, you need to go back and address that. And we'll do that now. To me, it brought those up just a little bit, so I'm just going to pull those sides down just a skosh. Put it on my chest. Ease this down slowly, just like so. Same thing to the other side. And then I'm going to stop kind of where I'm at, because I'll wait for the customer to come and make those final calls on some of this, because she might want that hat back up there, and I'll spend a ton of time doing this. But because I work this left and right, this hat has stayed very symmetrical over the entire course of this shaping. We addressed that big flare in the back by not only going straight for it, but trying to see if it was happening because of the other sides. But this is kind of just the typical tune-up I would do. Then I would go to a mirror and decide, does that look good, does it not? Come back, fix little spots that I want to fix. But that's kind of our felt hat tune-up for felt season that's coming up. So if you like this video and want to see more videos just like this, please like and subscribe to the Start with Cowboy channel.